In this brief tutorial, I want to show you how to log in to our course timeline on Tiki-Toki. So right now I have the timeline assignment document opened. There are a number of ways you can get to this. There's a link to it in the syllabus. It's also available in the timeline and Twitter tutorial section of Brightspace. So that's a separate module at the bottom of everything. You can find it there. You'll also be able to find these videos there. I wanted to make a separate video about logging in because there can be a couple of places that people have a little bit of difficulty, just some questions arise. And so I'm going to demonstrate how this works. To get to the course timeline, again, there's a number of ways to do this. You can click here. There's a link to it in Brightspace as well. So I'm going to click to open this in a new tab. Once it opens, and again, this just depends on how fast your internet is working at the moment. Once it opens, you will see this screen. You can just close that box that pops up as the introduction to what the timeline is. You will see all of the various entries on the timeline before you log in. So you can look at the timeline without logging into it, but in order to add to it and edit it, you will have to log in. Also, please note that I've set it up so that everything kind of collapses together. So what I mean by that, this transculturation entry is actually at 1492, and my entry is at 1981. But they both appear to be next to each other just because I wanted everything to be collapsed in that way in terms of the view so that you won't miss things. Because if these were actually spread out on the timeline according to where they actually happened, they would be very far removed from each other. And that becomes more important as we actually start adding events in modern Latin American history. All right, so to log in, you click this button right here, and then you will enter everyone will enter the same credentials. So let me show you where those are. Going back over to this tab, scroll down just a little bit, and I've added the username and the password here. So this is the username and password that everyone will use. So you go back over here. Mine's already entered because I log into this all the time, so it's saved. So you enter those credentials, hit login. And then what you will see next, this is where it can be a little bit difficult because now you're not seeing the timeline anymore. You're seeing this welcome Latin American history. And if you scroll down too far, you'll note that it says that you've reached your account's limit on the number of timelines you can create. That's okay. You don't need to create a new timeline. You just need to scroll up and click the words Modern Latin America right there. Once you do, you will see the timeline again. But this time, you'll have access to this admin button. When you click there, this is where you will add information to the timeline. This is where you will edit. For our purposes, you don't need to click on anything here. Don't worry about group edit, my account. Don't worry about settings, categories. If there is a category that you want to add, so for example, people have made categories for all of these things to explain what their entry is. So for example, my example on transculturation is a theme in history. I am a person. If there's something that's not there, you could add to categories, and that's fine. But most of everything that we're going to do takes place in stories. And you'll go to create a new story to actually enter your work. I'm going to make a separate video about that, though, so that these don't get too long, so that you can just check the video chunk that might address the questions that you have or overview of what you need at a specific moment. So we'll stop this one here, and I'll talk to you more about the timeline in a separate video.